Good evening and welcome to the November 15th, 2017 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. For those of you who are not familiar with our routine here, please silence your devices. And if you would like to speak on anything, you're very welcome to. Please come to the podium and identify yourself, and we'll be happy to hear you. All right, first order of business is to vote the minutes of November 1st.
Oh, I did look at those. I gotta find them. There's iPhone, let me see.
Anyone?
Oh, did you? I didn't find any. A little one?
A very little baby
We
one.
have,
Okay.
On page 3. On page 3, I said, if they are impeding access in the future, they can be cut. Mitigation should be placed in an area where they will grow to full height, not won't grow to full height.
Oh.
That's on page 3.
All right. So I move that we,
Do you want,
oh, you got it? Okay. I move that we accept the minutes as discussed.
second?
we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. All right. Now, other business, review Falmouth Academy request for Chase the Turkey race through BB Woods on Thursday, November 23rd, 2017, Thanksgiving Day. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, an annual class that Falmouth Academy holds, we run out in BB Woods. It's like a approximately 4-mile trail run at that. It's been held every year for as long as I can remember, so our recommendation is to approve the request.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the race.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Request for determination of applicability. Amy Moniz, 189 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool and install a new Title V pressure dosing system. Disturbed areas to be loamed and seeded. Jen?
We are recommending negative 200 state and bylaws, use area boundaries not conforming.
So moved.
Second?
Any comment from the board, from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Now, we have 2 requests for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. You're way ahead of me. 262 Wild Harbor Realty Trust, care of John Maurer. 262 Wild Harbor Road, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to remove a portion of the crushed stone driveway and retaining wall, reconfigure the driveway, install native plantings to comply with Order of Conditions DEP 25-688, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Thank you, and good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Homes and Madrid,
Thank you, Tim.
representing the applicant.
Is everybody had their husband?
Yes. The property is located at 262 Wild Harbor Road. The resource area is on or within 100 feet of the property are land subject to coastal storm flowage and a bordering vegetated wetland. Back in 1985, this property was developed with an existing single-family home. An order of conditions was issued, and a compliance was never obtained. Recently, the property has sold to Mr. Maurer, and in doing so, we realized that the order was never complied with, or compliance wasn't issued. We inspected the site and realized there was some unauthorized driveway and retaining walls, and part of the original order of conditions, there was a special condition that a 15-foot buffer be placed after the construction of the house of mitigation plantings, or what I would call probably restoration plantings off of that wetland line. So we've met with staff and we've tried to come up with a plan that's before you that satisfies that old order of conditions so that it can be closed out. So what we're proposing to do is remove a portion of the driveway, the retaining wall, and the 3 arborvitaes, and regrade that area and plant it with native plantings. There, on the right-hand side of the plan is a restoration plan with a mixture of shrubs, arrowwood, Irish blueberry, sweet pepper bush, and winterberry, typical shrubs that we plant. And we're also proposing to extend the existing crushed stone driveway on the left-hand side of the house to help and ease in and out of the access. The original approved driveway from 85 extended up into that area. It's currently lawn, so no further existing native plantings or existing vegetation would be removed. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Jen? do you have anything? All right, start down there with Kevin. Courtney?
No questions.
Maury?
Just one, to Jen. Do we have an original plan that shows the size of those trees, or is the existing? I mean, they're all shown on the plan.
Is the original plan.
Is this the original plan?
Do you have a copy of the original one, maybe?
Oh,
There we go.
All right, you can keep going. I'll look in the
I
file.
do have a copy of the original plan. There's no trees shown on it.
Okay, at least you
Back in
showed the trees.
In the 80s,
Yeah,
Life was different.
okay,
it was a little different back then.
okay. It just, there's no species of size, but
Yeah.
as long as there's something there. Thank you very much.
Betsy?
nothing, thank you.
Jamie? Peter?
Could you explain a little bit about the septic system, off-land or system easement?
Yeah, when the property was originally developed back in the 80s, they were trying to get as far away from the wetland as possible, so they obtained an easement from the neighbor, and the system was constructed on a neighboring parcel of land. So there's an existing septic easement that's currently owned by the Patella family.
Okay.
That's it?
Yep.
Mark?
No comment.
All right, I have a,
Oh,
go ahead.
I have a question too.
Yes.
You do too, obviously.
Yeah.
Why are you getting rid of the arborvitaes?
The area needs to be regraded. If the board wishes to keep them, I'm pretty sure Mr. Morrow would replant them in the area, the 15-foot buffer if need be.
I mean, why not keep them?
I'm sure he would.
Okay,
Is that,
that's my question.
I believe it said in the narrative that this is after the fact for the shed, is that right?
Yes, I believe so. You are
Okay,
correct.
and we don't, I don't think, I looked, didn't find it, we don't have any lot coverage information. And I know it's tiny, tiny, but it's probably changed since the last time.
If you look up on the right-hand corner, left-hand corner of the plan, the existing lot coverage is 5.6, and the maximum allowable is 20%. Is that not on that plan?
I don't see it, but no, I don't see it on the, can you
Yeah,
look
I
at
can submit this one for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we don't have it.
All right then. Anybody, anything else from the board?
No, but I'll make a motion
All right,
to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
all right. Anything from the public? All right, all those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Most welcome. Paul Harrington, 131 Gale Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise RAZE, the existing dwelling, and construct a single-family, two-bedroom house with a front entryway, bulkhead, a detached garage and shed, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, dry wells, driveway, remove trees, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the commission.
Thank you. It's been a while, indeed. That's what
Welcome
I
back.
thought when I saw you sitting out
I
there.
missed you all.
Have you been away or just?
No, it's just the nature of these things.
Yeah.
My name is Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. Mr. and Mrs. Harrington are here tonight in the audience. They recently acquired the property in question. The site plans you have on file are the same as this plan. I just blew this up to the next size so we could point out some of the important features of the presentation. So the property owned by the Harringtons is actually bisected by Gale Avenue into two different parcels. One is on the wetland side of Gale Avenue. It's along the edges of Warren's Pond. The wetland resources of interest include the pond, a salt marsh along the edge, a non-eroding coastal bank. The top of the bank is coincident with the flood line. The landform is steeper than 10 to 1. It's about 7 to 8 to 1 slope. This side of the road is heavily wooded and understory with briar. A 4-foot wide path has been maintained through there for decades by this owner. On the other side, on the separate lot, is where there's an existing house and a yard, a shed. And the Harringtons have plans to demolish the house and shed and build a new house and detached garage. The top of bank, as I said, is here. I've shown on the plan a 50-foot no disturbance zone A, and then the 50-foot outer.
What's that noise?
That's okay.
And then a 50-foot outer buffer zone B. All the work that we're proposing, with the exception of mitigation planting, is either in the 50-foot outer buffer zone B or outside jurisdiction. The things that are outside jurisdiction of the septic system, which is proposed to be upgraded, and the majority of the detached garage. What's in jurisdiction is the driveway and the majority of the new house. This is a redevelopment project in accordance with FWR 10.18. The new work, the new structures won't move closer to the resources than the current existing structure, although technically they could because they'd still be in the outer buffer zone B, but they're actually the same distance back from the top of the bank. The same number of bedrooms is proposed as does exist. This is one of the only areas that's still, to my knowledge, not on town water. There's an old well here, and we're proposing to install a new well in this corner. That's really the only activity other than mitigation planting. Then that'll provide the minimum setback from the septic system of 100 feet. There are a couple of trees in the B zone out in the open area nearby to the house and garage that we propose to cut. We believe that the regulations allow the trees to be cut in the outer buffer zone B. That being said, though, we're still proposing 4 new eastern red cedars along this side, just as a voluntary step to offset the cutting of those trees. 10.18 talks about required mitigation in the outer buffer zone B at a 2-to-1 ratio, but there is a provision that says that the required mitigation shouldn't exceed the area within the no disturbance zone A on the lot. That would be completely filled. So the no disturbance zone A on this lot is basically this triangular section which we're proposing to completely plant with mitigation planting consisting of, I have to look at this one. Sweet pepper bush, and arrowwood viburnum. We met with Jen before we applied to go through the regs and talk about the no disturbance zone A required planting. And we found that provision and refreshed our memory on what it said. So I believe that this mitigation conforms to your regulations. So all of the work is in areas that are previously altered. It's in the most outer buffer zone B to the non-eroding coastal bank. It's on the other side of a roadway, gravel roadway. And we believe that this project meets all of your standards. I left something off the plan in my haste. But I've shown it on this plan, and I'm happy to give you a new plan. Clearly, we all know I'm supposed to put a limit of work. So there will be a silt fence limit of work proposed, as shown here in red. It's just an oversight on my part. We are also proposing dry wells. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jennifer? Nothing. Okay, Mark?
Nothing.
Peter?
Nothing?
Jamie? Betsy?
I don't have any questions. I'm just concerned with that well. When I was there, the well was open.
We're gonna cover it.
Okay, I'm just afraid a little, or several little animals are gonna run across and drop in.
Help the neighborhood kids.
She said that first.
He didn't listen.
I'm not Herbie.
Those little critters, too? Kids are little critters.
The critters and the kids.
Oh, public house.
We did stake it and put ribbon around it. Red has it, orange ribbon, just.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
Oh, it has to be covered.
I was curious, right? So I went
Chipmunks
and
don't know what.
I looked down to see what was in it. And I did not see any carcasses of little critters,
I know
but,
all about the well, because the hole you saw was created by me.
uh-huh.
You found the well.
I found the well by stepping on
Oh, that's why that board was broken.
it. The rotted plywood piece of wood, yes.
But that was fun. Exciting. All set?
Yes.
Maury?
I just had a couple questions, Mike. First, I'd like, for now on, well, not now on, but in the future, please put the locus on the map, because that's another thing you missed.
Sure.
Usually we have it up in the corner. It's helpful to know what the whole area is as far as the resources, just not the little edge of Bourne's Pond. And you already did the limit of work, so you're going to give us a revised plan. There's also no first floor elevation on the new proposed house.
Sure, we can provide that.
And what is the driveway made of?
Whatever they would like.
No, it's, but,
That's a great
it's
answer.
just,
I would, it's gonna probably be crushed stone.
okay, whatever. It's just not
or
there, so,
shells. Yeah,
okay.
it's not gonna be paved. It would be crushed stone or shells.
Is that shed disappearing?
And, yeah, I was going to ask that. The shed, the existing shed's going to disappear, and then you're going to put the one on, something on sonotubes behind the garage?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And if, I know you, I understand why you want to cut down trees for views and that sort of thing. But the one that I was kind of curious about is a 12-inch oak by the edge of the driveway that seemed healthy. See the 12-inch oak, right by the dry well? Yes. Yeah, right there, yep.
Sarah?
Go.
Yeah.
You'd have to go
You can come up. Oh, but,
Yeah. He knows where everything is,
yes.
including the broken board in the well.
I'm Paul Harrington, and my wife Maureen is here tonight. That 12-inch oak is gonna, the way the branches come in right now, is gonna hit the house. So we wanted to remove it because it was gonna be right on the edge of the driveway, the way that the garage is coming, and that was the main reason.
Okay, so I guess the reason I'm asking that is that oak is 15 feet from the garage and 15 feet from the house, but you're gonna plant cedars 5 feet from the house. So so if it is an issue from being too close to the house, I would recommend that you move those cedars down so that in 10 years, you're not cutting them down as well.
Moving this way.
Yeah, just move them closer to the resource. Usually they're supposed to be closer to the resource.
No, he was right. I didn't want to say he was right, but he was right. I questioned it also.
Okay.
And,
Well, if it doesn't, if you decide not to take it down, it would be wonderful, because it is a nice, healthy tree, and I think once you get your house built, you should make that decision. Because that way there, it could be really important. You don't show any AC units or outdoor shower or anything like that, so is that not going to be anything you want? I ask a lot of questions, so you might want to stay
I
there.
should just stand. We are going to have AC in the house, so there will be an AC unit.
Okay.
There'll probably be an outdoor, a stationary generator at some point in time.
Okay, just Mike can put that on the revised plan that he has to give us, just
We
so
can
there's
put that
something
on,
there.
but I suspect it's going to be on the back side. We'll provide the information.
Okay, you figure that out.
Yep.
And then the other thing is that when you do your plantings, Mike, you haven't really, you're counting all that area, but there are existing trees there, and we don't plant underneath the trees, we don't count that area.
Okay.
So just make sure that you count that. You know, you add enough that it's not right underneath the trees, in the roots, you know the drill.
Right, the goal is, just so you know, to fully
But I think
plant
he's just
to,
pulling.
as best we can in the A zone, so we were just showing that area is going to be planted
Perfect.
3 feet on center all
Okay.
around, you know, so it's full.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
That's all. Thank you.
Courtney?
Maureen's asked all my questions.
Kevin?
All set, thank you.
All right. I was there yesterday, and I'm pretty sure I counted 8 trees that had ribbons around them.
What, white ribbons?
Yep. And including one that appeared to me to be in the A zone, just barely, a pine, kind of forward of the house.
This guy here is, well, we've ribboned it, and it's just outside the A. If you look closely on the plan,
Well, I see where it is on the plan. To me, in the field, it looked like it was in the A zone, but I will concede that it's hard to tell when you're just eyeballing things. But anyway, I counted 7 pines and an oak. So,
We only have 6 on
could
the
you
plan.
check that also and?
yeah, I
I
wasn't.
think you've got 6 on here that.
I
Yes,
didn't have the
6.
benefit of being on the ground when you were looking at those to see maybe if there was a different ribbon, but I can tell you the intent was to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, right, okay, so that's what confused me, because I'm pretty sure I counted 8
Mhm.
altogether. Yes, sir.
There was one dead pine there that he did not ribbon. So if you were counting the trees, that would be the 7th one. It's about falling over. And that one didn't, I didn't think had a ribbon.
Yeah, I only counted the ones with ribbons, so. So anyway, if you could just check that and see if anything needs to go on the plan, please. And the number of bedrooms, I know you said it's not increasing, I was just curious.
2.
2? Okay. All right, that's all for me.
So I'll make a motion, but Mike, can we have this plan in next week so that we have it before we vote on it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You need the elevation of the house, Mike, limit of work, the AC units, move the cedar trees, save the oak if you can, check the number of ribbons in the field on the trees.
Generator AC, limit of work. as
Limit of
well.
work, yes.
Locust, limit of work.
Yep.
First floor elevation, AC, shower units, move cedars, and the real number of trees.
Yep, I can do that.
6 things.
Okay, if you don't, we'll be upset.
Well,
I've said
it'll
this
be a
before.
procedural
We
denial.
don't want that. No, that won't happen.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right, anything else from the board? Anything from the public? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, move on to continued requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. Olga Barisky, 2 Wigwam Road, West Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a wading pool and pool patio, install a dry well, and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Madam Chairman, I'd just like, you all have a revised plan in front of you.
What's the date on it?
It was submitted today
Oh,
because it is just taking off some of the mitigation areas that were proposed in the revised plan, that staff didn't create. So basically, it was just removing some of the other stuff. I'm just saying. And I met with them, I went out in the field yesterday and went, that's not appropriate, that's not appropriate. So the plan is revised to reflect staff.
Do we have it?
Yes, right here,
I don't.
right there, November
Thank you,
15th.
Since I wasn't in
Do you
the
want
office
mine?
Where
today.
did it come
Are
from?
you
It
saying?
was on the
No,
table.
it should be on the
It was on the table when we
Oh,
arrived.
I'm sorry.
I didn't see it.
It's,
And I'm really,
It might be.
Mike did say if you're uncomfortable reviewing it, he would continue. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, okay, I do have it. And so is what you're saying that this has less
This has
area of mitigation?
less area of mitigation, but still the appropriate amount of mitigation.
Oh, right.
Okay, and it has a note that you're going to remove the pea stone that was placed. But we'll get to that.
Okay,
Okay.
You reviewed this.
all right,
What I
You
have,
have reviewed this.
yeah.
all right. Sorry, but take it away, Mike.
Okay, Madam Chairman, again for the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. Mr. Barisky's here tonight. If there's any specific questions he has, I've asked history, if there's questions about from when the house was constructed till the present. The house was permitted with an order of conditions and constructed in the mid-'80s. It's developed as a residential property, single-family dwelling deck, landscaping areas, driveway. It is bounded by the west by a salt marsh and then a non-eroding coastal bank. The salt marsh edge is shown in the 100-foot no disturbance zone. From it is shown. The coastal bank top is shown here. It's on your plan in front of you. And again, this has a 50-foot no disturbance zone A and a 50-foot outer buffer zone B. The sole activity on the project, other than the mitigation, is we're asking permission to build a 12 by 12 concrete slab that will be the base for a small therapy pool for Mrs. Barisky. The slab would be installed, formed and installed. The concrete would be pumped to the formwork here. And the only activities for construction would be handwork and labor to build the form and spread the concrete within the forms and place the therapy pool. It's in effect, it's like a big hot tub effectively. This is a redevelopment project as well. And we paid close attention to not moving closer to the top of the coastal bank than the existing primary structure. And we accomplished that. It's a foot less, it's a foot further away from the top of the bank than the deck. There are some areas on the site available for mitigation, although it was challenging. That's why we had a couple meetings with Jen. We had 2 meetings in her office, and she went out on site and met with the owner as recently as this week. And we had pinpointed some areas that were available for the mitigation, and The required mitigation, since it's a 12 by 12 footprint, is 3 times 144, which is 432 square feet. So originally, we had proposed areas of mitigation where it was possible to place it on the lot. And the total, and in the A zone, and the total was 900 square feet. We proposed more than was necessary with the idea of just trying to be proactive in trying to plant in, and also not sure if some of the areas were appropriate, and we found out some of them aren't. So they're nearby to like the structure and the shed and things. So after Jen saw the plan, there were some places that just really didn't, they were doomed to failure, I guess is a way to say it, so we took them off the plan. And what remains is an area over here that's sort of in a shady area, and that's proposed to be Clethra. And then over here, we're proposing Bayberry. And the total of those two areas, the Bayberry area is labeled on the plan as, and it was measured to be 270 square feet. And then the area of Clethra was calculated and equals 300 square feet. So combined, they're 570 square feet, which is still more than the 432. There was, there's a pea stone area around the deck on this side that there's no evidence that it was permitted. So it was originally, when the house was constructed, wood chip bark mulch area, so we're proposing to remove that pea stone and replace it. Janet suggested we do that and replace it back with wood chips. Since we are planting, we're required to give you 1 tree for every 1,000 square feet of planting. So we're proposing 1 eastern red cedar in this location, adjacent to the existing buffer. We talked to Jen about that, and Mr. Beriski's landscape contractor, and that was an appropriate place in everyone's mind for the tree. So the purpose for the pool is it's a therapy pool from Mr. Beriski's mom. We did our best to tuck it in right next to the deck. Access to it will be off of this deck. And we think we've mitigated for the increase in footprint. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I met a couple of different times with project team on this. Originally, we had flagged it as requiring mitigation because there's no, as Mike said, there's no evidence that the pea stone repaired last year was permitted. So went through all of that, and then went back and revised the plan. I mean, it's a pretty tight site. It really is, there's not a lot of room to do appropriate mitigation plantings. They did, Mike said they did go out and look at all the areas, but in reality, some of the areas just were not appropriate. So I just had them remove them from the plan and just use this plant, mitigation plantings there. So they were able to look at the construction access and replant that, and then the little area on southwest side of that little swimming patio. We went up there and looked down. They have like ornamentals there right now. So I mean, that's the board. I think that's okay, and those are appropriate places. The other ones I had to be good.
Thank you. Betsy?
No questions, thanks.
Maury?
Mike, I have a really big question, and it's because of the DCPC. I don't see any DCPC calculations on this plan, and I think 10.05 F, yeah, F1 and
Seven
B,
F1.
and 2B, yeah. You don't meet any of the performance standards, and the pool really cannot be allowed. you can't have more than 6,000 square feet or 10% of the lot, and on this plan, it says there's 8,489 square feet disturbed, and it's 27.4% of the lot, so it does not meet our performance standards for the DCPC. You can also not count the salt marsh. The land area used for determination of lot size shall not include those areas of the lot that are in the resource areas of land under the ocean, land under a salt pond, land under an estuary, or salt marsh. So that salt marsh area can even be calculated in your 30,973 square feet. So if I'm reading this right, Jen knows more than I do about this,
I told him
but,
it's the DCPC.
but it can't be, it could maybe be put in the deck, but if you read the DCPC regs, you can alter, but then it has to be put back, and that's even in redevelopment, and we can cite in the findings, Little Neck Bars Road. I don't know the exact number, but it was a Solomini project, the one that we had them rip all the insulation out of the basement, and out of the, whatever, the bottom part of the house. Anyway,
It was in a
so,
flood zone.
yeah, that was in a flood zone. But just so we all remember where that one was. And that was, they could only do 6,000 square foot disturbance in redevelopment, and they squeezed it in. This is not squeezed in. So, that's all. I'm not even going to discuss the rest of the questions I had, because I don't think it meets performance standards. And if
Well, I
any,
can speak to that. We did consider the DCPC, and our reading of the DCPC is that we're putting this in an altered area. It was previously altered when the house was constructed. The house was constructed in '85. There's a riprap wall, there's a deck, and originally on the plan, the area where the proposed therapy pool is proposed was bark mulch. It's right adjacent to the deck. It's not in any of the natural buffer areas. There's no clearing associated with it. There's no additional removal of any vegetation at all. In fact, by building this, you'll get back more buffer. So it's in effect an improvement, although it's required mitigation, it's still an improvement. So the very first thing I considered was the DCPC, and proceeded under the impression that we're building a 12 by 12 slab adjacent to a deck in an area that was cleared, altered, bark mulched when the house was built, and just instead of having bark mulch, we're having a slab in its place. So it's like a fairly benign project, not certainly a project that warrants the analysis under a DCPC in the way that Commissioner Hall-Fox described it. So that's the way we approached it. We wouldn't even apply.
well,
I'm going to disagree with you on the analysis that Ms. Harlow-Fox is saying, Mike, you should have just stopped talking before you said that one sentence, because any project within the DCPC warrants the same amount of scrutiny. And whether or not I'm going to go there right now and look at it, but I'm going to disagree with that last little part of the statement, and say once again, it probably just should stop talking right there.
Well, I'm just saying that it was considered, and we analyzed it and read the
It was not
regs.
discussed with staff.
No, because it was in an area, it was clear to me, and it was previously altered, it didn't really warrant any discussion.
Is there a reason why you didn't put that it was DCPC on the plan?
Oh, it's on there.
it's on there.
Where?
Overlay District, Great Sipwith Marsh,
Yeah.
Coastal.
Oh, all right.
We noted it on the plan.
Right.
So anyway, so then the next question, all right, so if you don't feel that way, then I'll continue on with my questions. You didn't put in the legend, there's no fence shown for the pool fence. It's on the plan, it's not in the legend. And when I marked up the plan showing the 100-foot no disturbance zone to the salt marsh, where the pool is now going, all that pink is a all of that colored is all the no disturbance zone, with 100 feet of salt marsh. So you're gonna put a pool in the DCPC with almost 9,000 square feet of disturbance, and why it couldn't be on an already disturbed, and the thing about the DCPC, it was if there was areas that could hold vegetation or maintain vegetation, it was even though it was altered, it could still withstand holding vegetation. This pool will never do that. It'll be permanently altered. And in the DCPC, you can alter as long as it is revegetated after it's altered.
Well,
So,
I'm just going to agree to disagree respectfully. I can submit a letter that describes what I think is clear. It is altered. It has been altered. It's been altered since the house was constructed.
well, could I ask you another question? I know that the house, those were very nice photos, but the fire pit wasn't there. That's new, that's not when the house was constructed, am I correct?
I wouldn't know that. I don't
Yeah,
know
well,
the history.
that's not when it was, in 19, whatever year it was you showed, the photos. The fire pit and all of that stuff over there, the shed was there, you can see that in the picture. But, again, I think we should really look at the DCPC regs. This area, it's pretty much, a lot of it's impervious. I mean, between the driveway, the structure, and now, I know this seems like a very innocuous little pool, but there are alternatives. If you look at the picture, it can go on the deck, built into the deck, so that not as much of the area will be permanently altered. This will permanently alter this area. And so, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Baristi?
Hi, yeah, good evening. My name's Paul Baristi. I just want to speak to, I can speak to the history of the property. The area where the fire pit was stone before, and then, the fire pit was built. There was no vegetation there, it was always just stone. And then the area where the pool is proposed is, the best picture, probably reference picture to look at is this one. Because it's being proposed right here in this space. It was always clear, there was always mulch. This was a hammock there years ago. And the challenge trying to build in the deck, to consider that is just structurally where the footings were placed in the deck. You can actually see it in this picture, the concrete piling that it sits on, it's what supports it, right? So cutting into it would be really difficult to do. There was a question I wanted to address about a fence. I don't know that we need to do a fence. The way that I'm looking to construct it is, because it really is the size of a hot tub. So I researched, because I need a locking mechanism that's, I want a locking cover for it, and it has to be automated, otherwise my mom won't physically be able to remove the cover. So, but I've researched it for this particular therapy pool. There's a cover that I can get that's made for hot tubs that's automated, and it will lock it. So when we're not using it, it'll be sealed and restricted. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that means we won't have to put a fence in.
No, I don't think you do, but it's on the plan.
I'm confused about that. I don't know.
Well, I don't know what the little dots are. Is that the limit of work, or is that the,
That's the limit of work. It's labeled as limited work.
where? Am I missing it, Mike? I probably am.
I'll show you on this one.
Look right above the word bank.
With the arrow pointing to it, limit of work, and it's little circles with lines in between as though it were the post.
Okay, well, again, it's not in the legend.
The drafting standards are if you label something, you don't need to put it in the legend. If you don't label it, it goes in the legend. I'm happy to put it in the legend.
And I would like to know, the last question, Jen, you are all right with putting mitigation planting up against a building? I thought we always had a 10-foot setback for mitigation, which means they don't have room to put mitigation.
Where's up against the building?
The pool, the deck. Isn't that the new revised plan, or am I looking at something wrong here?
No, you're looking at,
The green lines, aren't they mitigation?
I think that's the pea stone that's going to be wood
that's the
chips.
pea stone that's being removed.
The little lines, the hash
Yeah,
lines?
yeah.
Mitigation
Is just that dark green?
from here along here and then over here.
Okay, okay,
Is that it, Maureen?
that's it.
All right. Hassan, Courtney,
No questions.
Kevin?
when did you change from, I don't know, they're all dated March 6th, but you've got some kind of a pool here on this particular one, and now you've got it to a square one. Was the pool proposed to be constructed differently?
Yeah, originally we were honestly just trying to work out the dimensions of what was possible. I wanted something that was pre-built, and I was, honestly, because it's such a small, it sounds kind of funny, but it's easier to buy a large pre-built pool than it is to find a small one. And finally I found this company. So originally, the original drawings, we knew the sort of the general area we wanted to put it, and we thought we were going to custom build it, but I found something pre-built, which I think is just better all around. So the dimensions now, we shrunk it, and the 12 by 12 is the slab. The actual pool is even smaller. It's actually on the, I have a picture of it. This photo here that was included in the packet, that's not a representative example. That is literally the exact pool that I'm proposing. It's 7 feet 9 inches by 9 feet. It's just made by a company that makes pools basically for rehabilitation centers with easy access so that my mom can get in and out of it and get some exercise in the summertime. So the reason that the slab is a little bit bigger is just so we have room for the pool equipment, like the pump and that sort of thing to sit on. So the pool itself is 7 feet 9 inches by 9 feet, and the 12 by 12 slab is just built to accommodate like a skirt around it with the pool pump.
Madam Chairman, can I clarify Commissioner O'Brien's questions about the plan dates and things?
Yes, certainly.
Yes, the plan date was March 6th, but the subsequent revisions that are on top of the title block, one was on November 2nd, where we revised the pool, and we did that as a result of meeting with your staff. The second revision is today, and that's because it was the soonest we could do it, and it was a further revision after, again, meeting with your staff. So I'm happy to continue the hearing to give you more time to review this, and it seems as though I want to clarify the DCPC section to you in writing so you understand, but I would like to get a sense of the board's opinion, like are you in concurrence with Commissioner Hawks on that? Or, because I'm not going to close the hearing until I have an understanding of where we stand on that.
Well, I won't forget that question. Betsy?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One is, I hear you, sir, saying that there's going to be extra skirt, there's going to be extra this, that, and the other. Well, he was saying there's going to be...
12 by 12. Nothing beyond what was proposed. So the 12 by 12 that you see on that plan,
Right.
that is, we are not taking up more than that space. What it is, that's the concrete slab, and then on top of that slab, we were not doing any excavating, so the slab sits, it's 12 by 12, that's the only, I think you've heard of it as an impervious surface. So that's the impervious surface,
On
12
grade.
by 12. On top of that will be a 7 foot, 9 foot by 9 foot pool.
Okay.
It doesn't take up the whole slab, was my point.
Okay,
And, yeah, that's really it.
okay, so, but I have a couple of other points I want to make that I want you to think about, Mike. And that is the word alter. We actually have a definition of alter in our regulations. And you can look at the definition, but I read the definition and I don't see putting wood chips on is really altering an area. Wood chips, I know from experience that wood chips after a few years turn into nice, rich, muddy soil and can support vegetation. And I think it's important, especially for the new people on the board, to understand that this is an area, this DCPC, District of Critical Planning Concern, has a lot of special additional. You have to meet all the regular performance standards, but these have additional standards because of the sensitivity of this zone and the integrity of this zone as a whole. And so I, like Maury, am concerned with putting additional impervious surface in an area that already has a lot of impervious surface. And the alteration in the DCPC, the 10% or of the area, or 6,000 square feet, and the 10% has to exclude any of the part that's in the marsh.
Sure, I understand all of that.
So I think you just need to show your calculations on that one.
Yeah, but I just want to speak to alteration. Realize the DCPC regs came along before your February '08 reg change, when you started to introduce the concept of pervious surfaces that don't support natural vegetation. If you read the DCP in its in its global thinking way, alteration was, in my mind, removal of vegetation that was a natural condition. We're talking about a little nook next to a deck and a riprap wall that was cleared as part of the house, and then bark mulched. I mean, mulch by definition is to keep vegetation from growing. That's why you do it.
Yeah, but if you let it go,
Yeah, if you let it go, but if you don't let it go and it does what its purpose is, which is to smother vegetation,
Not really.
it was clearly intended to make it so that it was an area that didn't have vegetation. I'm not going to tonight argue about that, but I'm just telling you what our interpretation of alteration is. If we were altering, if we were altering over here, let's say, we wanted to put it over here because we liked this location better, we would be clearing out a shrub, brush, invasives. By the way, this is all invasives, which a lot of the DCP is. We'd be removing like a layer of vegetation that, to me, that's altering the DCPC beyond what it previously was. If you've got your deck and all your construction activities in an area directly adjacent to the deck that the original project included bark mulching, that was already altered. I mean, that's my reading.
Speaking to the history of the property, we remulched that area several times over the years, because I had to do it. Just tucking in the wheelbarrow up the hill. So it was a constant sort of effort to maintain and keep it back, since it used to have the hammock there. So it's an area that we always wanted clear, maintained. The hill grew in a little bit while my father was ill because we were stealing family stuff, but then we cut back again. So over the 30-year history of the property, we maintained it. It was empty. When you see the picture from '85, and it was always a space that we would kept clear. So that's, from the perspective of the coming to this, it's a spot that we always had, and just looking for tucking in. A small area.
well, I'm not going to get into an argument now, but from our perspective, it's whether something is permanently altered or not, whether the DCPC came before the changes or not. I mean, we're in 2017. We're saying, is this an area that could support vegetation?
Again, I'm going to clarify.
I'm saying that.
Yeah, I'm going to clarify that. I don't read it that way. We have to put it in writing, justifying it to you, so it's on the record.
Is there any recommendation, I don't know if it's an appropriate question for the time or not, that would satisfy from your perspective in order to be able to commission the project?
Well, sometimes the lot is just finally maximized. I mean, that happens. When people don't have any place in the A buffer anymore, when it's maximized, you just can't add any more. And in the DCPC, that was why those regulations were created. It was to, whatever was already built in the DCPC, at the time the regulations were adopted, that then you had to meet that criteria. And this particular lot it's already heavily developed. So it doesn't have a lot of wiggle room to expand anymore. And mulch, by the way, Mike, it's not just to smother weeds, it's also mulch is used like compost as well. I mean, some people use it to amenitize the soil, not just smother things. So it depends on how the semantics are. But this lot, and I have a question, is the pool off the deck?
It would be, so it would be above ground, and it would, basically, the deck would flow right into it.
So in this picture, now I was really confused when you were just explaining that. So this deck right here is where the pool is going to be right off here?
Correct.
So where's the concrete going?
So.
At grade right here?
No, on the wall.
On the wall,
Above,
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's the flat area there, so it would be a slab poured, it
Okay,
would go right next to it.
okay,
So we would just, we take down the railing, just cut the railing and basically have it flow right in.
thank you.
Because the pool would be elevated, so the design of it, the concept of it was to have it, basically the way it would work out is it would sort of be at waist level, because the deck itself is elevated off the ground, so my mom she could walk up, sit, and then swing her legs around, which would make it easier for her to get into it. I just have concerns over her trying to walk down steps, versus if she can sit and swing around, she can then scooch into it and do her exercises.
Okay. Jamie?
Why couldn't it go at the other end? Replace the deck, the smaller deck? Wouldn't that be better exposure-wise? Sun?
Well, the challenge would be because that's how we enter the deck from the side of the house. So that's because I don't have an issue in terms of where the green is marked. Sorry, in the side. Planting that hill is okay because the main way that we use to get up is through the stairs here and onto the deck. And if we were to put the pool there, it would make it difficult to be able to access the deck from that side, which is how that's the main way that we get onto the deck from outside is access through those stairs. So it wouldn't fit right based on the size that we have in the layout.
Is this a gunite pool? You said it was prefab?
No, not gunite. It's going to be fiberglass, just pre-manufactured, just sit above there.
I realize that. The narrative.
Yeah, that
says
changed.
gunite. So it's going to be sprayed on site?
Yeah, so originally I considered, I thought my only option was gunite, because I looked for a long time for small pools, and I thought my only option was to have to do gunite, because I just couldn't find them small enough. And finally, when I found this company that specializes in rehab pools, oddly enough, they're based in Fall River, that is a better option. It's lighter, it can just drop in easily, we don't have the mess of construction and all that stuff. I absolutely want to try to minimize impact and all of those things. And I don't need anything fancy, I just want something my mom, she had a stroke a year ago, so I'm concerned she's just not getting enough exercise in the summertime. It's just too hot for her outside. She has a bad hip, so she can't walk on the sand and all that stuff. So having something at the level where she can walk in, that's the goal, to make it easy. She doesn't have to step down to get into it. And it is a property that doesn't have a lot of room. I think you can see that, so that was the impetus behind it.
Yes, Jen?
Say one thing to Mike. Mike, when you're doing your analysis, don't just look at 10.057, but look at 10.39. And I would really say I'd go back and look at the aerials after 96 and see how much work has been done on that property after the DCPC regulations went into effect. That's what I'm now. So I'm just I'm just throwing that out there for you.
What was the section you said to
On
look at?
1039,
1039 or 1030?
1039,
10.39.
yeah,
Oh,
10.39.
So you go 9 by 7.
All three DCPs.
So it's
And
the
black.
DCPC section,
Yes.
all
Yeah.
DCPC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't read just a subparagraph.
Yeah, just don't read just the section
we-
that's in the definition area, read the section that's in there.
We'll give you a written
Okay, but
opinion.
look at your aerials, like, after 96, okay? Just to see how much more, development has gone on that, if any. Because that's gonna be a factor into that calculation that you're gonna, that process you're gonna go through. Okay?
I get that, but obviously it comes down, a lot of it comes down to the opinion of all involved, to the decision makers on how you define alter. So that's what it's gonna come down to. So I've heard from 2 commissioners about what they think the word alter means. So our opinion is that area where the therapy pool is proposed was altered at the time the house was built. So we'll describe that in a letter of some sort, and walk through the DCPC regs but
The beautiful thing about 1039, the section I'm looking at where the calculation is, it doesn't specifically say alter. It just says that you need to go through the calculations and do that stuff.
we will read the section and provide you with new information. I'm
Thank you,
telling
I'm
you
sorry I
the
missed
way,
that when we were reviewing.
I'm telling you the way that we interpreted it when we initially did the project. Are there other opinions about that, or should we just continue and
Let's continue, see if there are any other questions. Peter
No question.
and Mark?
No question.
All right. So, yeah, to me, the question isn't so much the definition of alter, it's what do you think about mulch? But anyway, Commissioner Gladfelter just drew a possibility which would entail sacrificing a portion of the deck with the staircase, but the portion that's, towards the resource area, as a compromise,
There'd be no way
possibility.
to access the deck from outside if we did that, though, which would be the challenge.
No,
Still
that,
got 5
no,
feet.
that's, she took that into account. It would not,
The pool itself is 7 by 9.
I mean, this isn't precise, but I think it's worth looking at.
My issue is, I have 2 issues. My issue, I'm sorry about the personal issues you have that your mom's dealing with. I mean, that's difficult. But we have to make decisions not based on who's living on a piece of property at the time. We have to make decisions made on how is that altering that piece of property permanently in terms of affecting the resources. And so I'd like Mike's going to ask for a continuance. I'd like you to go back and to think of creative alternatives that you're not adding additional impervious surface in the A zone to a salt marsh.
Is there any possibility to consider any type of other plantings or us to get the pool in that particular spot? That would be my question. Because I don't,
Well, you could trade, you could take
Take some driveway
you
out.
could take, or you could take the deck out, or you could take some driveway out.
I mean-
You could take-
I'll rearrange the deck, possibly. Sink it into the deck.
Yeah.
That's what-
Mark?
I've got a question for you, Betsy. Could you imagine putting this on correctly pressure-treated timbers, which should not be a permanent alteration, but would be support and base for the pool, but could be, if the pool were subsequently removed, easily also removed.
I would, Mark, as staff, I would caution against allowing something like that because that could be exploited. I don't even know how many ways I'm thinking about it in my head about sheds, and we're just gonna raise it off the ground and put it on timbers. I would really caution the board not to go down that rabbit hole. I really would.
Yeah, and to me, that doesn't really.
'Cause it can't- it still can't
solve the
support vegetation.
restore question, because it may or may not ever get restored.
Yeah.
Someone just made an interesting comment about removing some other altered areas and restoring them.
Right.
Sort of a
Mhm.
net,
Yep.
net zero game. We'll look at that.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
that, I mean, that's in the regs, it tells you that.
That's what the 1030 is gonna have you do, Mike, is go through that.
So we scoot out pieces of driveway and that buys us that land.
Paul, you need to get up to the microphone, you know that.
Paul Skowski. So what you're saying then is if we take out bits and pieces of this driveway that amount to a significant amount of square footage, you'd allow us that pool up on the high side? Is that what we're hearing?
Oh, you have to, Mike has to go through the calculations.
Right.
In what zone it's in.
But-
And what zone
And
it's
what
in.
zone it's in.
Yeah,
Whether
well,
it's,
it's a different zone,
Yeah.
so that means that the calculation goes a little higher,
It's not
correct?
1-to-1.
Okay. But a point that, since I've been involved in the property for a couple of years, and looking at the pictures and looking at the aerials and all the rest of it, they've maintained that corner because they didn't want plants growing up against their house. They live in an area that's all, if you've been to the site, it's all invasives. And if they don't pull the weeds or the bittersweet or whatever it is out of that mulch stone or anything else that's there, their house is going to become part of the wetland.
if they decide to move to New York and somebody else buys this house, they might have a restoration plan and remove those invasives and put all natives in, including in this area. So you can't say what people have done in the past. You
Well, I'm
have
not
to
saying what
say
they did.
what's possible for that area in the future.
Okay. But sometimes adding a little logic to it just seems like the right thing to do. And this is logically not the place to let plants grow. It's a corner that's right up against the deck and the house, and there's a stone wall down below it, so it's
Somebody else might come in 15 years from now. I mean, it's a nice area, you've maintained it, it looks nice, somebody else might come in, I mean, this happens all the time in Florida, and take it all down and build something completely different.
well, that's not what's gonna happen here. We're talking about 12 by 12 pool for his mother.
Who knows what's going to happen
Okay.
20 years or 50 years from now?
I said my piece. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Madam Chairman, just a clarification on the, we're talking about this, trying to trade off surfaces for surfaces. And I thought we were talking about it in the realm of DCPC, like altered area, make an existing altered area that's in the DCPC
Right.
unaltered, if you will, by putting it back to nature. Is that, and then trading that against the pool, is that what we're talking about, or?
For
I
instance,
think we're talking about the limit of 6,000 square feet or 10%. Is that right? Is that the way you were
They're
looking at it?
way over that.
they're way over that.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why adding more just makes them more non-compliant.
So the logic would be not to increase from what you have. So
Right.
if you decrease somewhere else to compensate where this bark mulch is, that it might be a net zero, is I guess what I'm asking.
Well, Mike, you also have to look at the, like I said, you've got to go back and look at your aerial photos and see how much of this lot has changed since '96 to now without a permit.
And maybe you
So,
have some personal photographs of the area that would help us as well.
you know, so, I mean, I'm just saying you need to look at that. We've looked at the driveway and everything, but where the bar is and the stone patio, I mean, you need to go back and look at those areas. Just to make sure that they were prior to the implementation of the DCP regulations. Because if they weren't, then that's going to be a whole nother discussion. But, so that's why I'm cautioning you and recommending that strongly that you look at those aerial photographs.
There may be.
Well, we understand what we need to do.
We don't have no.
So,
Why don't we do something?
I'm sorry, Mike, I was,
we understand what your concerns are, and we have our opinions, and we will put those in writing. So we will need to continue.
okay.
Give a date?
Hang on, I'm just looking at something. Is the 6th work for you, Mike? Because like next week's the holiday, so you want to get in a week in advance. Do you
We're
want
going to
to
get
do
some time,
Yes,
so
December 6th?
Yeah.
Or do you want the later one?
we want to do sooner than December 6th.
No, it's up to you, Mike. You can have the 13th. What do you want? Do you want December 6th or December 13th? If you get any closer, you risk Courtney giving you cold for Christmas. Yeah, I would do the
That's true.
13th. Or the 6th or the 13th.
I'm going to ask for the 13th.
Okay.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to the 13th of December.
Second.
All right, anything else from the board or from the applicant or the public? All right then, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I just have one question. Paul?
Yes.
Where are the beach committees meeting from? Which one? Johnny King.
The marina.
No,
Okay.
yeah, the harbor master's office, I was just there.
Thank you.
All right, next continued NOI is the Warren Family Irrevocable Trust, care of Philip and Susan Warren, trustees, 132 Sitters Pond Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, and it's already been read into the record, so that will suffice.
There's Mark, Kevin, Jamie, Mary,
Thank you.
Betsy, Maury.
Yeah. Ask Kevin.
You were here.
We're ready for coffee. Your coffee.
That's what I thought. I'm gonna put you down because somebody left you off my list.
See?
I'm like, looking, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't remember Peter being absent. I mean,
Oh, Peter definitely wasn't absent.
I commented that one of the trees was
Yeah.
dead.
That's right, Peter.
Thank you.
Good people are left off. I often leave myself off, too.
Put the rest up.
all right. Whenever you're ready, Tim.
Again, good evening for the record, Tim Santos from Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicant. This project was before you a few weeks ago, at which time we requested a continuance to address the commission's concerns. We found a 44-page supplemental filing, which is pretty in-depth, so as I spoke with Jen today, I'm going to kind of go through a 13-point bullet, kind of just addressing each of them quickly, and then if you have any questions, either myself or Maria Hickey, who's with me today, can answer the questions for you. So I think it's kind of moved some of them out of order that's in there, but I'll try to keep it on. So one of the first questions was, did the lawn and the irrigation exist back in 2015? So we supplied some site photos for 2015 and copies of the 2015 approved RDA plan, which showed the edge of the lawn as well as the irrigation. And there was a note on the 2015 RDA plan that said existing irrigation system to remain. So that's kind of checked for that one. The osprey pole has been removed from this project. I know that was a concern. The existing landing and steps to the rear of the house that were constructed closer to the resource area, that was inadvertently done by the builder. So we are proposing to remove them. And what they'll have out back is 3 steps down, like it was supposed to be as shown on the 2015 RDA plan. The mitigation calculations, we supplied you with a highlighted, detailed breakdown of how we came up with those calculations. The 217 square feet in the A zone, the 163 square feet in the B zone. There's a highlighted exhibit that's in your package.
Color-coded.
Color-coded. I can go over it with you if you want, but it's in there. It explains everything. The perennial border has been eliminated from the proposed mitigation areas. We've also supplied an exhibit showing the planting plan in more detail, so you can see what is mitigation plantings and what is the restoration plantings on the coastal bank. All of the mitigation plantings have been moved into the lawn area. So when we were here last time, I believe some of the mitigation plantings were in areas of invasive removal, and now all of the mitigation plantings are in the existing lawn area. The tree symbols, the proposed tree symbols, I guess there were questions last time, so it is a circle with a dot on the plan to make it easier to understand what is proposed and what was existing. The infected oak trees on the coastal bank originally were proposed to be removed. The applicant currently has taken that off the project before you, and what we're looking to do is we're requesting permission to remove the ivy, that's the Irish ivy that's growing all over the trees. Remove that ivy, leave the trees, so that we can get someone in there to examine the trees, and we'll also get a diameter of those existing trees and supply that to the commission as well. There's a detail in the package of the specific erosion control blanket that we'll propose to use on the slopes. It's similar to the blanket that we've used on other projects, most recently at the Cape Cod Camp Resort on the slope there. So if any of you have been to that site, or I know Mark had, and I believe Jen too, we used it there and it was very successful. The last 2 things, dry wells have been installed that were approved on the 2015. The dry well is in now, it is working. And lastly, but not least, there was a proposed, well, I shouldn't say proposed, but we were proposing to remove a section of the paved driveway to the north of the house. That has been removed. So I think those are the, in a nutshell, I'll try to make it quick because of the last hearing. But I have an hour right home.
Less is more.
That's kind of the bullet points from last time. So I'd be happy to address any concerns you have specifically on each of them. We've given a breakdown on each of those, and Maria's here to answer questions about the plantings as well.
Okay, well, I appreciate the effort you put into this. Jen? Is that Kevin?
I'm sorry, I must have, did you address the landing?
Yes. So the landing that's to the rear of the house, that the builder inadvertently built too close, we're proposing to remove that. And they're gonna build 3 steps off the back of the house in the footprint of where it was supposed to be originally built. So it'll be no closer than what was approved in the 2015 plan. It is shown on the plan before you.
Did you mean
I
a
guess I
different
was
landing?
not speaking correctly. The platform at the end of the path?
That platform existed, and it still exists. It's shown on the 2015 plan, and it's still there today.
So there's no proposal to do anything with it?
There's no proposal at this time to do anything with it.
Courtney?
The oaks that you're going to remove the ivy from that are still alive, and then you said you were going to evaluate the trees. Is that what you're saying?
That is the plan.
And what's the timeline for that?
I'm going to let Maria answer that question. I'll let Maria answer that question.
Good evening, Maria Hickey and Associates Landscaped. We did have a certified arborist come out and evaluate the trees, and as it's written in the report, it was confirmed that they are infected with Snipid gall wasp. Part of our proposal would be to remove the ivy once, hopefully you're approving the project, so that further assessment of the trees can be done, because it was really difficult to do a structural assessment with all the ivy covering the trees.
So is your intent to treat those trees for?
We'll make that
gall
assessment
loss?
once the ivy is removed, to see where they are, and we'll,
And this is going to happen within 6 months?
correct.
Can we write that into the order of
Well,
conditions?
they
Sure.
would have to come back to do anything.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, I'd like to,
Yeah, we're asking permission to remove the ivy, so that we can move further along in this process of having the trees evaluated.
okay. Yep, no other questions.
All right, thanks, Courtney. Maureen?
Is the only thing I wanted to ask you, it is biodegradable, right, for the mesh that's in the,
Correct.
okay,
That's it?
that's it.
Betsy?
The last time you were here, there was rhododendron, a big rhododendron, right out in front of the landing, and that got changed. And that rhododendron was gonna move over to the, I don't know which way is east or west here,
Property.
but the property line
So
over here, so is that not moving?
that rhododendron was previously proposed to be relocated.
Is not gonna be-
It's going to remain where
Okay.
it is.
Okay, and anything,
There's a note on the plan that says rhododendron to remain. If you go to the,
Oh, yeah, right
Western
right by the
lot line,
100-foot, right here, it says
where it says
rhododendron.
100 feet.
that's this one.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the
Oh,
one
the
that
one
was right
down
there. I'm talking about the one.
On the bank.
See where the landing has changed? By the trees that are gonna have the ivy taken away? There was a big rhododendron there. I guess it's gonna, you're not saying you're gonna move it, so I
No,
guess
we're
you're not gonna
moving-
move
We're
it.
not moving that.
Mature.
So, and then the other question I have is, but I guess this is gonna be, would be when you make a decision on the trees, but what's gonna happen with all those invasives that are around and underneath the trees, in addition to,
I think if we were to propose the trees to come down, obviously we'd have to come back to the board, and at that time, they would look at the invasives on the bank and a restoration.
right,
plan.
so,
At that point,
so
that would be-
nothing's being done
There's nothing
with that
being
right
done.
now?
No,
Okay,
correct.
okay. I just wanna be clear what we're,
Yeah, I
Talking
mean,
about.
the area of restoration on the bank is clearly defined on the plan.
Yep.
And it'll be staked out in the field,
yep,
you know, prior to any construction or any restoration going on and removal. So they know where the limits are.
right, and presumably at some point, you're gonna have to address that other, because otherwise, it'll get overwhelmed. This, what you're planning is gonna get overwhelmed. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie?
Just a question on that landing on the back of the house. What kind of door serves that?
I believe it's a slider? I believe it's a slider.
Because if it's out swing, you need the landing.
Yeah, no, it's a slider.
That's all I have.
Okay, Peter?
No questions.
Mark?
Yeah. Your plan is to remove the invasives down along, adjacent to the pathway. And it sounds like from the description, you're actually going to strip that hill bare and start over again? Is that the plan? So it's not simply removing invasives, getting rid of everything that's there?
It's removing the non-native invasive vegetation and then replanting with natives.
But if you're going to use a erosion control mat, I would guess the assumption is there's not going to be anything left before you start planting.
No, because about 99% of it is invasive ivy that's on the ground. We want to
It didn't
remove
look
that.
all that bad to me. Certainly looked like a nice habitat, if nothing else. Maybe it's invasive, but
It's really overrun with the Irish ivy, and in order to replant, we need to get that out of there. Otherwise, what we plant will become immediately overrun.
do you envision then, once you decide if you have to take one or more of those trees out, you're going to have to do the same thing on the other side?
Well, we would come back before the board.
I mean, it's similarly
Correct.
planted underneath, so I presume. I sort of don't like the idea of stripping that whole bank bare. It just, I don't know how you do it. You can't, I don't know if you don't plan to go in there piecemeal
No.
and grub out the invasives and leave, if there is anything there that's not invasive?
I did a pretty thorough walkthrough. It is
Crawl through.
pretty much. It is wall-to-wall ivy. And the ivy competes and dominates for the nutrients, sun, water, and will smother and choke out anything native. So we're really trying, that's why it's a restoration. We really want to restore the natives and get the ivy out of there. Because you can see what it did to the trees. You know, it,
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Yes, Betsy.
So Peter and I happened to be there at the same time. We went down the pathway to the water, and there was, and I'm sure it's an invasive because there was a lot of it around, but a big thorny thing that I wasn't familiar with. What's that?
it's just some type of a wild floribunda that doesn't flower, fruit, or do anything. I've been watching it for 2 years.
It was kind of scary.
Yeah. We'll be wearing some heavy-duty clothing.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else? Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, anything else from the board? No. From the public? From Tim? No, okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thanks again for the extra work.
Everybody have a great holiday.
You as well.
You too. Gobble, gobble.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Nice seeing you again.
Yeah.
And happy birthday to your twins.
Oh. All right, next, request to amend the existing order of conditions. Lou Seligowski, 51 Toby Lane, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, DEP 25-4061. This hasn't been read in yet. Anyway, it's an amendment to construct a smaller house, rotate the structure 90 degrees on the lot, relocate the septic system, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. So, Jen, we don't have, okay. Good evening.
Good evening, my name is Luke Seligowski. I'm here on behalf of myself and my wife, Jean Seligowski. Basically, we had come before the commission 2 or 3 years ago. We were granted an order of conditions to, we were going to demolish an existing residence at that property. That existing home was only about 8 to 10 feet away from the top of the coastal bank. And so it also had a failed cesspool system there. So we got an order of conditions, and in that order of conditions, we were allowed to tear down and remove that existing building and remove and drain and fill the existing failed septic or cesspool. And so subsequently, we received a building permit, and that building permit was for a home of approximately 3,300 square feet. It's been 2 or 3 years since that point. Unfortunately, I've had some health issues which prevented me from going forward with that project at that time. My wife and I have now decided that we'd like to put in basically a much smaller home. It's approximately 2,500 square feet. The original plan required 1,490 square feet of mitigation, and this new plan will require only 534 square feet of mitigation. In other words, almost 1,000 square feet less. The new plan puts the footprint of the future home even further away from the top of the coastal bank and the 100-foot marsh offset. So we feel that overall this project that we're proposing is going to be very beneficial, much less invasive for this lot. Hopefully someone from the commission has had a chance to go by and see the lot. When, or soon after we tore down the original dwelling, I had the commission, specifically Mark Jurczyk, out there, and we put in approximately 100 bushes and trees at, per the order of conditions that we had, and actually had him there to kind of oversee and make sure that it was just what the commission was looking for. In other words, if he wanted a bayberry 2 feet this way or whatever, we asked them to come, and so they'd be happy with it. So if anyone's been out there, you've seen the success of all of our trees and bushes. Everything is flourishing at this point. And I guess I'd just like to say that we'd like to ask the commission to vote favorably on this new reduced plan that we're proposing.
Great. Thank you. Jen, do you have any? No? Okay. Mark?
Has anybody seen this new plan? I certainly haven't. Here it is. I don't have that. Okay, I'll skip, go ahead.
Peter?
No questions.
Janie?
Have you started the house yet?
Oh, no.
So you put the mitigation in already?
Did you get it? in your-
Yes, ordered.
Oh,
Yes.
Today? Yesterday.
November, mine says
I think
November
that my phone
3rd, yours is
yesterday.
October 27th. We have two different plans, so
4 o'clock.
mine is more recent. Mine is dated October 22nd, and what's yours?
October
No,
27th.
not that date, the date that's,
The date of the
Yeah,
plan
okay.
is October 22nd, 2014,
Right, okay.
received on November 3rd.
right, okay.
Well, my question is, that's fine.
So-
I'm good.
Okay. Nancy?
This is the plan we're talking about, right?
Yes.
And it overlays a bigger house that used to be there?
The original plan was,
You're looking at a plan with a revision date of 10/31.
I don't
I
have
don't have that.
1031.
Received November 3rd.
Mine says received November 3rd, but...
Yeah, the revision's right here.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Yes,
1031
Yes,
revision.
that's what
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
looking at.
okay, I'm sorry, yes, that's right.
And the house is
Well,
rotated,
Kind of
and
hard to find.
isn't this where the house was?
Yes.
I know it shows the
Guys,
very
here,
original.
look at this, watch this, I just colored it for you. Here was the little house, that was the original
I
house.
know
we
where the
got
little
that.
house
Okay.
was.
This, my yellow was the original
I can't see yellow from
house.
here.
It is, it's the what you have.
It's what I have,
Yeah,
all right.
And then the new house is
We-
that.
Is
So
the
basically,
proposed-
the whole thing shifts further back from
Yes.
your salt marsh.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we see it. So, did you have a question, Betsy?
I didn't have a question.
That's all I'm asking, did you?
Wow.
Did it sound, well, anyway. Maury?
I had one question. Is it still going to be a 5-bedroom?
It says 4-bedroom.
4-bedroom.
Okay. That says 4, but your septic plan says 5. So that's all. You might have to revise that. It would be a lot cheaper to put a 4-bedroom than a 5-bedroom.
Right.
So just ask your engineer.
You know what it is, there's, over the garage, there's a,
Oh, they might have, okay, fine.
yeah,
That's all. And it was very nice to see the plants all thriving, and you did a nice presentation as a homeowner. Thank you.
thank you
Yes,
very
you
much,
did.
appreciate it.
Courtney?
The current order of conditions expires when?
Just curious.
We just approved this a few weeks
I
ago.
don't have.
2 weeks ago?
No, a few. There's a couple.
I'm sorry,
It's
what's that?
recent. It's within a couple
Okay, so,
months at most.
but we're amending an order that's expired?
No.
No, we're amending an order that was just issued recently.
Oh, I thought, okay, I misunderstood. I thought it was like 3 years ago. I have no questions. This is an improvement.
Kevin? All right. So, can I have a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to accept as discussed.
No, I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right.
My motion trumps your motion.
Are we ready? All
Very
those in favor
competitive
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Enjoy your house.
I'm always competitive with Jamie.
All right.
Oh, I have a headache.
So, vote order of conditions, 58 Cape Codder Road, Salamini. quorum, please.
No, I'm on it. All right, and let's make sure we have the right plan, since we have a bunch of them. The newest
Mark,
one.
Peter, Kevin, Jamie, Mary, Lori, Betsy, Courtney.
All right. Don't this. Did we vote this last time? I don't think we did. This is the one that has to go back.
Here you go.
to Greg.
Do you want a plan? Betsy?
When did we put the fee?
Yeah, we voted it.
We did.
We voted it, but that was that was what condition that we voted.
That's the
What am I
plan,
doing?
if you
Oh,
want that
okay.
plan. Do you know that Salt Pond was never, doesn't butter?
Created to rebuild, there was a lot of different issues.
Like chapter 91 questions on this.
So I think one of the biggest questions was moving those plantings, those proposed mitigation plantings along the top of the bank. Tom attempted to make an argument that there was a bank over to the side, and therefore he wants the mitigation plantings, or that's why he was citing the mitigation plantings there. I also have a concern with that area, because that's where they're proposing those kind of steps and the timber, and I think it was overgrowing that area. So staff would prefer to see the plants along the top of the coastal bank.
Yeah, and what does he think he's protecting by where he had them?
Okay, so I guess we're moving mitigation
Where's the
I'm gonna get it right
to
here.
along
Might be on this
top
one.
of bank, adjacent to Buzzard Bay.
Yes, right.
Why do I not? I don't know where
Is that the plan?
it is. Oh, yeah, right here.
Revised plans. What do you want done with the trees?
The trees were right on the lot line.
So we should move the trees to the area, maybe just kind of under the word lot 94. Put the trees,
Yes, down by the edge of the lawn.
yeah.
Yep. Right down in here somewhere.
Where are the trees? Oh, there.
Because they're gonna say it's in zone A of the top of the coastal bank. Put, place trees in zone A, bank, Buzzard Bay.
Yeah.
I have
Now,
no
there's
idea if you
quite a
cut that
few
one down.
trees, so you want all of them?
Is it 6 trees we're talking about?
Well, we're talking
No,
about
and
one,
they
two,
have
three,
two more
four,
by
five,
the-
6, 7, 8.
No. 8, yeah, 8. I never could figure out why they were cutting down the 2 cedar trees and then putting 2 new back. I didn't get that. 2 perfectly healthy.
That's where their grading's done.
Oh, it's because it's
Oh, that's
grading.
right.
They're changing the grading.
Well, then maybe they could,
So I'll just have them put them over by Buzzard Bay.
yep.
Okay.
They should probably stay there. No, 'cause it's
That's the only thing I really
starts coming down this
have.
way.
I have a note
Take it down here.
questioning whether the deck on the coastal bank is permitted,
We
or,
can't find anything for it. And it's on a different lot.
It's a,
oh, it's a
belongs
different
to
lot,
Salt
that's
Pond.
right, that's right, okay.
so if that comes back, they'll have to deal with that issue.
Right.
And Salt Pond was never, in the abutter notification was never notified.
I can put no work on staircase and deck.
Yes.
Down bend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How
I
close
can
is
tell you that
patio?
Salt Pond was not on the abutters list, but they did call.
Right, I know that.
Yeah, we sent them a copy of the plan. We told them to pay specific attention to the driveway portion of it, because that was the, sorry, the controversy.
Yeah.
For lack
What's
of a
this?
better term.
Bank. And everybody was okay with that proposed 18 by 30 patio, 20 feet off the top of the coastal bank?
In the FWR zone?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It's in the V zone.
But it's moving the house back from.
I would just make sure
It's not a
that.
brand-new house, it's a, well, I mean, it is a raise and
It is.
rebuild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just make sure that there's a finding that there's no future enclosure or anything on that proposed patio. Because I have this awful feeling that's gonna become a,
sunroom.
yeah, and then a real room, and then we have a lot of I mean, right now, a patio in a V zone is one thing, but as long as we make sure it doesn't become a habitable area.
Oh,
That's a good point.
We specify the trees are 10 feet off the lot line.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we putting them 10 feet off the lot?
Because when they put them on the lot line,
I'd leave
then,
a couple of trees down there, but they should be 10 foot off the lot line.
So how many trees do you want to leave along the driveway, and how many trees do you want me to have them relocate towards Buzzards Bay?
3 and 3.
Got it. So 3, place 3 trees, and then the other 3 trees 10 feet off lot line.
minimum 10 feet.
Oh, that's all they have. Isn't that 10
Okay.
feet?
Yeah,
I can
not
do
even. That's, yeah, just
Be happy to
barely.
do that for you.
Well, actually, they can't do 10 feet, because then they're gonna be in the driveway.
Should they be off here too, or these lower things? There's no trees here, are there?
No, no, there aren't any trees, but that's going to be rotated to here.
Okay.
Do you understand?
all
The
right, yeah.
trees are going to go over
I mean,
there.
the same thing, and that's something we should really look at, you know, with all of our orders, you know, when people propose plantings along the lot line, you know.
We do.
When they mature, they're gonna be an issue.
Yeah, because the center of the trunk is only 3 feet off the lot line. So in 5 years, it's on the other person's property.
Right. And the other person is entitled to cut limbs off it.
And that, not only that, but that's a right-of-way, so it's gonna block the right-of-way.
Not that I've had.
Not that that's in our purview.
But we can be mindful.
Can we?
Are we done?
I think we're done.
I think we're done.
Are we
Okay, I make a motion to accept
The order
the
as
order is
discussed.
discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Throw that away.
And now, I believe we just need one more motion.
To adjourn?
I have something.
Okay, sorry.
We have one more agenda item, and we've received correspondence from the 300 committee, with some concerns of, they've been receiving, and we have been receiving a number of calls about hunters on PB Woods and in Peterson Farm. Both those properties, the deed for PB Woods specifically says no hunting. We have, the parcels are not posted for no hunting. They're just not posted for hunting.
There have been complaints?
There have been a
There have been
number of
hunters.
complaints, and so 300 committee is specifically requesting that the Conservation Commission, as the owner of these properties, inform the proper authorities to post the entrances as quickly as possible. So what I would say is that we send a letter to the Marine and Environmental Services Department and ask for their assistance posting the property. I mean, Phoebe Woods is huge. Apparently, Alex Zillow, the land steward at the 300 committee, and your former land manager had a discussion with the state, and said, the state said that, only post, it would be appropriate to post at the entrances. I think council has a different opinion, if it's in deed in accordance to state law on how to
100
post
feet.
this.
It's every 100
So-
feet, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Every what?
So-
Every 100 feet.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, because you can go in and not see the sign.
Of course,
Yeah,
but that's all
so
signs.
that's going to take some looking into, but I think we need to start with
Yeah.
requesting the Marine Environmental Services if they enforce the hunting laws, you know, assist us in doing this, and we CC town council and town meeting.
Right, and they would install the signs? Is that the idea?
If not, then that we would ask for their assistance.
Okay.
Well, I think it would behoove the town to post in the enterprise that Long Pond and all of that area is allowable hunting. I see people out there all the time, and you can hunt there. And a lot of people, if they saw it in the paper, you can't hunt in Beebe's Woods.
It's always been, you know, we've always known there are hunters out there in the town. And the MES is always approached it as they'll warn the hunter, if they catch the hunter out in these areas again, then they fine them or do whatever, or take a strong action. The thing is, these parcels aren't posted.
Right.
So I think right now it's just becoming more frequent, and parties are becoming more bold, not only the hunters, but the walkers and recreational users.
A lot more
that
people out there.
encounter
Yeah, a
the
lot
hunter.
more newcomers.
Yes, so I think it's beginning to be possibly a problem.
Yeah,
So I
it
think we
sounds
should
like-
send it.
Sounds like a liability problem.
Put something in the newspaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jen,
Go ahead,
I-
Betsy.
Mary, two things, and I have something else to say that has to do with the same issue at a different place. I would say that the signs at all the entrances have to be posted immediately.
Yeah.
And then look into
Yeah, absolutely.
what
Yeah.
the legal access is. And may I say my second thing?
Yes, you may.
And my second thing is, and I'm saying this now, and I'm going to ask you to say it at the selectmen's meeting next week, to make an announcement that the construction area for the lower Coonamessett River Restoration Area is closed. It's a closed construction zone. Again, people generally have stayed away, but on Friday, there was an incident where somebody knew she had come and she knew she wasn't supposed to be there, and I think she thought it was a holiday. But, you know, these people have a contract and they got to get their work done, and they're going to be working
And that is.
with dangerous equipment, and it is posted. But
Well, the enterprise gets a lot of people.
Can you just vote to send the letter to?
Yeah, send the letter to-
I, I make a motion, we send the letter.
Thank you.
So, second.
All those in favor say
I
aye.
second it.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. And yeah,
Thank you.
and definitely, I agree with Betsy about getting signs at the entrances right
Yeah, we'll do
away.
that, we'll have to do that immediately. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, and just one other thing, I'm sorry, real quick. We did receive the final emergency certification letter from Ty and Bond regarding the mineral oil spill that
For the-
happened during the storm.
The
So
transformers.
they have sent their emergency certification. My initial conversation with Dan Gilmore at DEP, he said that this is all they needed to do, that there wasn't going to be a required notice of intent follow-up. I will double check with him
Okay.
tomorrow on that. But they are going to be doing follow-up site inspections and updating us.
And there were no PCBs.
No.
Perfect.
It's all nice and tidy out there now,
I
too.
know.
It is.
It
The
is.
grass is actually starting to
I
come
know.
in.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All right.
Good oil.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say
Aye.
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 Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.